present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes. And during that time, we are going to hear from some of the industry's very best as they talk about customer service. We're going to pose, some questions to them about what they see as challenges and opportunities over the next kind of 12 to 24 months for the industry, and really get down to what inspires them as leaders. I'm Fran Southwood, CEO of Auscontact, and I will be your moderator for today. It's an opportunity today to interact with people that you might not often, you might not know them, you might not have had the opportunity to connect with. It's a great opportunity to interact with a panel of senior leaders who are super invested in the industry. We'll make available a recording of the session afterwards. And we do suggest that you use the Q&A and the chat button on your control panel. You are all by now experts with all of the different mediums we use for these virtual sessions. So if you're anything like me, if you have a burning question, write it down, because I will forget it if I don't write it down somewhere. Equally, if it's something about what we're talking about, you just want to make comments, throw them in there and we'll connect in with that chat as we work through. If you're listening through headset or speakers and have any issues with your connection, use the raise hand button on the panel, and one of us will jump in and try and help. Alternatively, you can revert to the dial-in numbers that would have been on your email registration. So that's all that fun stuff out of the way. I would like to now introduce our speakers for today, and I'm going to ask each of them to give a bit of a brief overview of who they are, what they do, and kind of how they got to where they are in their roles now. So we are lucky enough today to have Stacey Thomasoni from Datacom. Stacey's the Managing Director there. We've got Daniel Taylor, who is the CEO from CCSG Group. And we've got Melissa Vandenberg from Allianz Australia, where she's Head of Customer Experience. And Daniel, a huge shout out to you. We did have Toby Ellis on the panel, but unfortunately Toby got pulled into something at the very last minute. So Daniel has kindly stepped in to help us. So thanks again for that. But I am now going to hand over to each of you and ask you to give a bit of an intro, who you are, what it is you do, to share with the group, and then we're going to get into some of those hard-hitting questions as we go. So Stacey, I'm going to start with you because you were on the left side of the screen.
Hey everyone. So I'm Stacey, as Fran said. I work at Datacom. I've actually been at Datacom for 15 years. And for those of you who don't know Datacom, we've been around since 1965, very much in the IT technology space. So anything from critical systems to cloud application services, the whole IT outsourcing. It's actually this year that marks the 30-year celebration, if you like, that we've been playing in the customer support space. So it's been a really, really good time for us to reflect on what's going on in the industry. So our role is representing organizations, whether or not it's government or commercial, and actually providing the service delivery, but actually increasingly working with organizations on what do they need to help engage with their customers in new ways, and also what's the technology, obviously having a real tech bent on everything we do. How do we enable employees as well, which we're seeing is equally important these days. So I kind of fell into the world of customer service. I don't think, when I was growing up, when people said, what do you want to do when you grow up? I don't think working in the contact center industry was even an option on the list. And it's an incredible place to be right now. I couldn't think of a better place to be with all the change and everything going on in the tech space. So that's me.
Thanks, Stacey. Daniel, we'll hand over to you next.
Yeah, thanks, Fran. So Daniel Taylor, CEO of the CCSG Group of Companies. I set up CCSG, what is it now, 18 years ago, after starting my career in law firms, and then moving out into setting up debt collection. Similar to Stacey, I didn't wake up one day and want to be a debt collector, but it's what happened. And I think our customer service journey probably only started about 10 years ago, when there was some changes in the consumer protection laws, where debt collectors went away from being able to carry baseball bats, verbal baseball bats, not the actual physical ones, and actually, God forbid, thought people needed to be treated as customers, and being able to build and change the landscape of what engagement was in debt recovery, from being that obnoxious engagement to very much a customer service driven, humanistic side of things. So I've been quite fortunate to see the evolution within our industry, in the customer service space, and also within my organisation, and being able to build contact centres in Sydney and Newcastle that really support customers, rather than the old school ways of baseball bats and heavy-handed legal tactics or whatnot. So yeah, quite fortunate, to be in this industry and be able to be of service to people, rather than just feel like you're taking away.
Thanks, Daniel. And Melissa, last but not least.
Thanks, Fran. So my name's Melissa, and I'm working at Allianz Australia. I've been here for just shy of 2 years now, and I, just like Stacey and Daniel, did not go, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. I actually started in criminal justice, so I was working in prison systems way back in the day when I first got out of university, and stumbled upon contact centers when I was just looking for a mummy job. I was just looking for like a 7 to 2 type shift when my kids were going to school. And I didn't really want to commit to full-time work, but it seemed I was really good at it. I was great at insurance sales, and just sort of kept going from there. My background is a little bit diverse. I've been able to work across many different industries. So I've worked in local government, I've worked in global outsourcing, I've worked in treasury, I've worked in healthcare engineering. So I've been really fortunate that I've seen service across so many different industries, and have been able to take the best pieces, whether it be, business to customer or business to business, and then really sort of take that and be able to apply it to whichever industry I'm working in. So I've been really fortunate in that regard. At Allianz Australia, I look after the customer experience centres. So we have a wide range of agents in our customer experience centres, and they're all over the place in lots of different time zones, which we were talking about this morning. And it's really, it's so much fun to be able to, I guess, take all of that experience and develop such a strong leadership team that can help lead our agents to be delivering service the best they possibly can. So that's really what I get, what excites me when it comes to customer service.
Awesome. And it's interesting, whilst, the three of you have all called out that you didn't, dream as kids of, one day working in a call center or running big organizations with great customer service functions. The same can be said about our customers, right? Regardless of our customers, most of them don't wake up in the morning and think, something I'm really excited about today is to get onto those phones and call a provider or a debt collector or an outsourced area that's actually managing services for government or whoever.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of that same component of the industry, isn't it? We've kind of all landed in this space, but probably what I hear from all of you is, again, this evolution around customer and your connection and all of those different steps throughout your career that have kind of seen you go down that pathway where you recognize, number one, actually you're good at that stuff with customer. It's kind of where you landed, because generally you land where you're good. But equally the opportunity to bring those different experiences to make a difference to that customer experience. So I'm going to ask all of you, when we think about customer, great customer service look like for you? And, again, there's a whole lot of noise out there in the environment about, CX this and EX that, and, AI this and all the rest of it. But when it gets down to the nuts and bolts, what does great customer service look like? Anyone want to start? Jump in.
I'll go first. And Look, I'm going to be really cliche in my response, and I think when you break it down to the most simplistic nature of it, I think it's not just about meeting customer expectations, but exceeding those. And I think you've got to break that down a little bit and not live in that cliche land. I think you've got to see what that actually means in your own organization and then start to build some strategies about the delivery of that. I really do think it's about, we all come from all different walks of life. And it's about giving that customer an experience that's different to your competitors or something different to what they've had in the past. And so, the customer that gets off the call and shares that experience with someone else, that's when you know that you've really delivered great customer service. And being able to figure out what that different experience can be for the customer, so that they do get off and go, wow, that was actually a great experience. And I think similar to what you were saying earlier, friend, people don't wake up and go, oh shit, I've got to go call this person. And there's that sense of dread in people as well. You know what I mean? You just don't know what you're going to get these days. And so being able to give them something different and enjoyable, and attentive to their needs, I think that really starts to bring that into that exceeding part. But it really does boil down for, different organizations figuring out what that little magic potion is in your customer base and being able to deliver that.
Yeah,
I
it's
like,
definitely that X factor, isn't it? Stacey, what about you?
I like the
Customer
magic
service.
potion. That's
Yeah.
good. I will start out by declaring that I am not an easy customer to please, to the point where my husband actually holds his breath when the waiter comes along and just innocently asks, "So, how did you enjoy your meal?" But we won't go there. I think as a customer, when I get to interact with a brand, I'm going to assess how meaningful and how positive the experience was from the actual starting point of, did I actually need to have an experience to begin with? Which kind of talks to what Daniel was saying. And frankly, it's major points off if I didn't feel it's necessary. And certainly these days, we're all going to expect that we can connect on whatever channel that we want, and that our context will carry through across those channels. Of course, I'm going to be marking on the basis of things like, did you give me the right information? Were you responsive? Did I actually get what I was looking for? But then I'm going to start thinking about some more nuanced things about, how did it actually make me feel? Which can be really hard to design for, right? But so for me, great service, it comes down to, if I end up taking time out of my day to speak to your organization, is it a meaningful interaction and one that actually I needed to speak to a human to begin with, and they went out of their way, they were totally empowered and super willing to go out of their way to give me what I wanted, and what I needed. And when I get to the end of it, I think, wow, that was a great experience, and it's one that's going to go into the memory bank of what I expect in as far as good experience.
Funny when you say you're a terrible consumer, or you're that person. I am that person in my family. In fact, even driving through to pick up a coffee, at Sarafa's, my daughter holds a breath and she says, just be nice. I'm like, I'm always
Yes.
nice. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And when they were young, they would ask to stay up to watch me on the phone if I was calling up a service provider, which made me stop and think, this is a little crazy. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's the opportunity to really then rethink, how do you
Yeah.
then as a leader kind of get that across to the people that you're leading, to get them to get that same buy-in. So Mel, what about you? What does great customer service look like for you? You've worked in a whole lot of different verticals. And actually, sometimes people
Yeah.
say, that's about government. Government's different to private industry, and if you're selling something, you've got to have a different lens as well. But you've worked across all of it. So, what do you think great customer service looks like?
Yeah, look, I have worked across lots of different industries, and I think it still boils down to really two main things. And Stacey hit the nail on the head when it's really about, how are you making your customer feel? whether that customer is a business, business to business or business to customer, it's how are you making them feel? Are they walking away going, yep, they nailed it, that was absolutely amazing? Or are they going, I can't believe I'm going to have to call back in 2 minutes because they've given me the wrong information? So just an example, this morning I had to call a utilities company. I will not name the name of the utilities company. And I got on there, I had 3 things I needed to do. They absolutely nailed the first 2 things. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm on a roll. And then they told me incorrect information for the 3rd thing. So then I went onto their website, I researched it, realized they'd given me the wrong information. Then I had to call back and actually get it done again. So that experience for me was absolutely disastrous, obviously, because it's actually wasted quite a significant portion of my morning, whereas I could have had it fixed in that first call. But that comes back to, the foundation, the hygiene stuff, prompt responsiveness, accurate information, being courteous, consistent, transparent, all of that type of thing. They're hygiene things. And I think they're bare minimum, though. I don't think they're the things that are going to wow your customers. It's the feeling. It's are you actually valuing them? Are you actually valuing their time? And if it's transactional, are you valuing their money as well? Do they actually know what they're paying for? Do they understand what it is, what value they're getting out of the interaction with you? And if you're missing those, I guess the basic things, then you're definitely going to miss that awesome customer service because they're not going to feel that they've had a great experience. So it definitely comes down to that feeling, how they walk away from the interaction, and are they going to say something great? And look, as a customer service agent, you could actually hit all the hygiene pieces, but if you do it with a voice that sounds like you really don't want to be there, then you're probably not going to give them that extra piece. So I think one of the most important thing for I guess people to remember is just think about yourself on the other side of that phone call. Have you really nailed it? Like if you were getting that experience as a customer, have you gone to the level that's going to make them feel that they've really sort of enjoyed that experience and it was worth the 5 minutes that they had to take to talk to you to get whatever it is done? So I think, that feeling, I think we need to really think about that and put that effort in quite consistently. And I know how hard it can be in a call center. I've been an agent for many years, and I know how hard it can be for that first call to be the same as that last call at the end of the day. But if you know, you have to have the hygiene pieces, you have to make sure that customer feeling is there, and they have to feel valued. So I think they're the key ingredients to great customer service.
Yeah, no, I think they're great points to kind of highlight. So if you think about your roles, right? You guys are passionate about what you do. You're in senior roles. You're leading large workforces. How do you transfer that thinking? So we've just heard what you think is great customer service, right? You've talked about what you want your customers to walk away feeling, but how do you transfer that thinking to your people? How do you get them to connect and buy in to that mission and value that you place on customer service? Because clearly we're not it's not easy, right? It's not easy to actually get that connection all the time. And we hear a lot about where people are having poor customer experiences and making different choices as consumers. So what's the investment that you make with your people to get them connected to that mission and those values that you've talked about?
For me, I would say it's making sure that people just have this absolute clarity of the impact of their work and that they don't diminish it, and that we do everything to put it up on an absolute pedestal to the point where I am now being quite annoying to my people, where I say, don't call them the front line. They're not at war. They're actually front stage. Like these people are the front door and front stage to the organization. And if they don't give the great service, this is what could happen. This is the actual impact. And I think creating that, that actual immediate connection is really important. And we've tried to make this easy for our people at Datacom. So building these, what we call our CX principles, which essentially like the high, it's like our North Star, if you like, guiding our every move. And we've got this high level ambition. We say we are here to create exceptional experiences, and that has to be through meaningful and effective connections. And then underpinning that are the principles that we live by. So they're principles that we all design these together with our people. Be human, make it easy, know me, show me the way, and be trustworthy. So when we ask ourselves, how do we actually show up to any interaction? It's through the lens of those principles. Did we actually make it easy for people? Did we give customers what they want? Were we able to personalize the conversation? And frankly, if we can't, follow all the connect all the dots across the conversation, that's going to be super hard to do. So I think it's a mixture of those things.
Mm. Yeah, I think in support of that, we lead, culturally as well. We had to change our culture and bring in a culture of customer service. So we had it quite easy actually, and we're able to reflect back at the errors of the ways and be able to look forward. But I think one of the things that we implemented was, in each of our values, being able to put, because we're a service provider, being able to put client and customer in the same vein. And so we don't have clients if we don't have customers, and vice versa. And so, being able to treat people with that respect and really have that as a cultural push out, that we continue and emphasize, throughout the organisation, and hire to, and performance management too. Definitely is those things that supports.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Mel? Do you find, it's, you guys are very deliberate and strategic about how you focus on creating that buy-in in your people?
Yeah, we do. And we have some really good programs that we make part of our fabric of the service, and sort of everything that we talk about and breathe sort of at Allianz with regards to, we really understand our customer value proposition. We really have taken a lot of time to make sure that we're sharing that with our agents and with our leaders, and everyone understands their contribution and their impact to it. And we also deliver this through our experience habits, so habits of appreciation, habits of heart, and habits of help. And this is something that is part of everything we do. It's not just a program that we run for half an hour, sort of once a year or anything like that. It's part of, all of our monthly feedback. It's part of our coaching. It's part of, it's just really embedded into everything that we do, so that it's a conversation that happens often. And when that happens, it becomes, it's more than front of mind. It's how we live and breathe our service and that type of thing. So I think we do a very good job. We definitely have, obviously, opportunities, but we don't just look at that. We also look at, where are the gaps? We definitely have customer rooms. We have our, customer experience months and all of that type of thing, where we really sort of pull back the covers and have a look at it warts and all, so we can have a look at where the gaps have been. And why did those gaps actually occur? Is it because we have a really complex process that we should make it easier for our agents so that they can better serve our customers? So we look at it from multiple different lenses, and we really give our customers a voice rather than just having, feedback from our customers. We actually take that to our staff as well, and we have, our insights to action programs and that thing. So it's just a massive program. It's sort of built into the fabric of everything that we do.
Yeah. Stacey, I just want to pick up on a point you made before about, frontline agents, and that whole, concept. I think we're seeing a real shift in the environment of how organisations actually see contact centres and the important role they play with your customers, right? Yeah, and yeah, we all sing from the same sheet, right? Because this has been years in the making. And those that are quick to shift to this position, really recognizing that actually it is your customer service staff, your agents that are building your reputation in the community. They are the ones that your customers are actually speaking to. So it's really good to be seeing some of this organizational change, shifting away from, I guess, contact centers being a cost center and something they can continue to shave and, micromanage and the rest of it, into actually it's a strategic asset for any organization. So that investment needs to be, matching of, the investments made elsewhere in, other things that are about customers. So it's really good to be seeing that. Are you all seeing that within your own organizations? And are you starting to see it with, some of you guys work with other organizations through that service kind of role? Are you seeing it continue to emerge as, a changing strategic piece?
If I can, I'll start. And I love where this conversation is going. And I saw, Jayana, your question, which is very much in the space of is EX and CX, are they interlinked? Absolutely, because behind every great interaction with a customer is an employee who actually is empowered to get the job done. And as you say, Fran, I think there's actually been an imbalance to one extent. I celebrate the fact that in the last 5 or 10 years, even the word experience has become mainstream. I remember particularly working in Datacom, a tech, very tech focused organization, you would come up with the word CX and experience, and you would have to really dig a few layers deeper. Now it is mainstream. And that's great, because a lot of organizations are now seeing that actually experience is probably your last remaining differentiator. What hasn't actually caught up, what we're seeing across different organizations and across industries, is the actual amount of mind space that we give to employee experience. And if we could actually shift that imbalance just a little, we would see some really, really great impact for the customer experience as well as employees.
Neil, any views on that? And I guess again, from Gianni is specifically around that employee experience, and where do we see that? Is that also a really important contributor and deeply connected to that customer experience? Which I think, Stacey, you're right. Absolutely intertwined, and in fact, if you focus on one without the other, you land in the same space. You need to get that balance right to actually have those right outcomes for customer and for organisation.
Yeah, look, absolutely. If you're not looking after your employees, you're not looking after your staff, if you're not making it as easy as possible for them to get the job done, then you're never going to win the CX piece of it, right? We spend a lot of time creating, having our staff as our brand ambassadors, right? They're also customers of ours as well. Most of them are customers of ours. They experience what it's like to be a customer, and I think the amount of sort of time and effort that we've put in, particularly over the last 18 months to 2 years, to make that employee experience the best it possibly can be. You come to work, and if you have to deal with so many barriers and so many hurdles to get your job done, you're not going to be in the frame of mind to do your job well, right? So that's a no-brainer. And I think we have these, amazing customer experience teams and all of that type of thing. But if we're not putting the effort into our employees, and if we're not actually supporting them, giving them the tools they need to do their job absolutely, amazingly well, if we're setting them up to fail, it's the hygiene thing again, right? We really need to create this amazing experience for our staff, because that just enables them to provide the amazing experience for our customers. But having them be our brand ambassadors and having them be customers of ours as well is really important for them to be able to experience what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah, and I think in our space and where we sit, it's about removing the friction. And I think that if there's more friction, the friction goes both ways. So, if the staff are having a bad experience, then the customer's going to have a bad experience. And if we're not delivering to the customer, it swings all the way back. And so we sit in a real interesting point where, we will deal with, challenging situations. And there's plenty of contact centers that unfortunately, are there in those difficult, conversations and not, in a front end sale or support or what have you. And so, being able to remove some of that friction and lead, with positive, engagements and really having a concise path moving forward really does ensure that CX and EX are aligned and not pushing against each other.
Yeah, no, definitely like that. So shifting a bit here, what would you say? And there's a whole lot of challenges within our environment. It's no different to any other industry, to be fair. We've got a lot of challenges with labour market. We've got retention. We've got attraction. That kind of bundles here. Changing customer expectations. We've got this requirement and pace of change that's actually also adding into it all. What do you guys see as the real challenges, for organisations generally when it comes to delivering that great service? You've told us what you think it is. We've talked about the fact that we're all consumers. What are some of the challenges? Because we know we're not getting it right all the time. So what are the challenges that actually, you guys are struggling with, and we're seeing more broadly? But how do we get over them? Like, what are some of those things that keep you focused at the moment on, giving that amazing experience every time? Every interaction's an opportunity. So what are the things that kind of challenge us with that?
Yeah, look, I think the challenges that we all face is consistency in staff, and that can be challenged, through attrition, but also in being able to provide great customer services, being able to have that consistent approach to it, and being able to have the right people leading it, the right people enacting it. And if you've got high, turnovers or anything else, you will start to see the blips in that customer service. I think it's about, relating to customers' needs. And I think that's a real issue in itself, because, you've got the economic and social environments that change. And it really is about how do you modify your processes and to be able to keep in line with that. And I think that's probably the biggest part of it. So are we as organizations in front of those curves, or are we actually just chasing our tails all the time? And I think the ones that get it right are the ones that are trying to stay ahead of it. It's a challenge to foresee the future, but we can start to see what's starting to evolve, and to be ready to move with some of the changing tides is extremely important.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, go, Stacey. Yep.
So we know when we get lucky, right, with that one person, and you go, oh, thank God I got to speak to you, because I can tell you actually give a damn, and you're going to go out of your way to help me. But sadly, that's not always, you don't necessarily have the confidence that next day if you call back, you're going to get the same experience. And sadly, it's also because that person, to do what they needed to do to satisfy you, they probably had to work outside of the company guidelines, and that might mean they spend a little bit of extra time to help solve your problem, answer your question more holistically. They gave you a little bit more information, and they did things that necessarily weren't towing the company line. And I think one of our biggest challenges is actually sometimes us, in terms of what's our mindset and what's our status quo, and what do we accept as okay in terms of customer service. And to put that into perspective, we keep hearing expectations. Our expectations as customers ourselves, they're not going down, are they? They're just going. They're getting bigger and greater at a rapid rate. And so the expectations they're getting bigger, And how many times are we hearing the words, sorry, ma'am, I can't help you, that's not our policy, that's outside the guidelines, and so forth. And frustrating when you start to dissect what's the reasoning behind that, and the fact that you're actually going to end up having more and more conversations with that customer because you're not giving them what they want to begin with. And it means that some rules actually need to be broken. And it takes some real courageous leadership for us to actually step back and say, hang on a minute, what was the actual intent of that rule? And does it still stand? Like, is it actually there for, 2% of the population that are going to do the wrong thing or going to try and scam break the rules? Or if we actually relax that a little bit, or if we empowered our people a little bit more, would that mean that we could actually help our customers more? And probably the more exciting part, and we're actually doing some experiments at the moment with our people where we're getting them to test the boundaries of this whole concept. And I'm sure Daniel and Melissa, you'd know this from that whole regulatory and compliance world, the difference between information and advice. And I can only give you information, I can't give you advice. And we can be so set in our ways of, oh no, I can't go into that realm because it's actually going outside. And the frustrating thing for our people sometimes is that they'll go, I know exactly what to tell the person. I know exactly what they need, and I know exactly how to solve their situation. And we're not allowing that in our policies and procedures. So I guess I'm kind of championing, how do you have those conversations to really test the boundaries?
I love that. And in fact, Daniel, I know you called out, one of the challenges is consistency, right? And I think as an industry, we say, well, to get consistency, we need a script and a script that everyone will follow. And if they just stay within those boundaries, we'll be consistent. But actually, what we're seeing is, that push and the power of empowerment. I guess, Stacey, is kind of what you're talking about there. How do we empower our people to know enough that we're not, our control freak kind of component, well founded often because we do have those regulatory elements and considerations that we actually have to abide by. How do we actually get that balance right? Mel, I'd love to hear your views on some of that as well.
Yeah, look, I think something that was really interesting. So when Stacey and yourself were saying that you have very high expectations when it comes to service, and you're probably not, the best customers. I'm probably opposite to you guys. If I'm ringing up a call center or if I'm getting my coffee and I can see someone's having a bad day, I just feel for them. I don't necessarily get upset that they didn't smile at me when they handed me their coffee and that type of thing. Whereas I put myself on the other side. So I really think rather than just sort of changing customer expectations, it's the varying customer expectations that are out there. So I mean, I didn't have a great experience this morning, but I went and got the information myself and I fixed it pretty quickly. Yeah, I probably wasted an extra 8 minutes of my time, but it's 8 minutes. It's probably not the end of the world. But Stacey, if you had that experience, you're probably on there providing feedback going, oh my gosh, you did not do this and you did not do that. So I think the varying customer experience and being able to cater for that and having staff that understand where they need to sort of change what they're delivering to meet the expectations of the person that they're dealing with rather than a group of people that they're dealing with. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is understanding that and getting that right each and every time. Consistency, like that's really important. As an agent, I might have a really really great week, and then Friday might be really really terrible because my kid kept me awake and the neighbor's dog barked and all of that type of thing. So I might be less pleasant on the phone calls all day. So that consistency can be really hard to deliver because we're all people and we all have our own experiences outside of work. So I guess there's that, but I think we've got the operational limits, the fluctuating workloads. We've got call centers are changing so much now. So there's always so much change that we're putting through as well, and how we're actually helping our agents stay on top of that change, and how we're bringing them along those journeys, I think, is often a really big challenge for them to be able to be delivering amazing service all the time, because they've got 20 other new things popping in. They've got something that just changed in the background. The knowledge management system might not have quite updated to something that they read this morning. And it makes it really difficult for them to provide that amazing service. And we change at such a fast pace. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, it feels like everything's going faster, but I swear I didn't have to remember as much back when I was in the call center on the phones, 15, 20 years ago. So I think being able to do that change piece really, really well, and being able to make it as easy as possible for our agents to be able to do their jobs really well, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, and I think it kind of leads into I'll put it out there, sweeping generalization, but I don't think anyone's um, doing change management really well with that same pace and speed. I think some do it better than others, but I think as a function, as a key function that actually helps our people through things, I don't know that I see great examples of that and how it applies to that internal environment for a customer. But how do you guys stay abreast with what those changing expectations are from customers? It's hard enough for our people who are listening to them all the time. We then have them feed up the line what's happening. Quite often they've got a team leader who, says, "Come on, just do your job. Don't worry about those things." So there's all these different contributors that we've got to kind of find ways to allow in to the system. But how do you stay abreast of what are those changing expectations of customers? What do they want when it comes to great service? And how are you tapped into hearing when it's not working?
Yeah, look, it sounds too simplistic, but getting on the calls and actually listening to what not so much about snooping on your agents or anything like that, but I think it is about listening to what the current themes are and what people are actually saying. And we have a lot of client meetings monthly, and they're saying, well, what's the sentiment out there? What's the pain sentiment? And I can sit there and kind of look at others, or you can get out there and you can actually start to listen to a couple of calls and actually understand what people are going through, or if they're appreciating your service or otherwise. One of the other pieces that we use and have been using for a long time, and it's nothing new these days, but in our sector we were kind of the first to pull it over from the States, but it's the call analytics software, and really being able to get that emotional scoring, not just on your agent side, but on the customer side, and really starting to understand where you're actually winning in a customer engagement, and where are the challenges and the elements that you can improve on. And I think, for us, because when things go wrong, there's complaints that come, and we've changed our whole culture around complaints. And and a lot of organizations have started to do that, really welcoming complaints, because it's getting those little nuggets that that can help change your service delivery. And so changing the culture around complaints, so that people aren't afraid of, oh shit, we're going to get in trouble if we get a complaint or anything like that, and really being able to push it into an environment of, here is our ability to grow and provide better service through what we do.
Yeah, no, I agree. Stacey, what about you?
I totally agree with what you said, Daniel, around just the good old fashioned sitting side by side. And what I particularly love about that is that those awkward moments where you're sitting right next to a customer service representative and you see something happen and you go, oh my God, I can't believe you have to do that. And you can't look away. And that memory and that feeling sticks with you until you've helped make the change. And that's where you really get to hear the impact of not getting it right for a customer and what their changing needs are. But we're all customers ourselves, and for me, that's the best way. I kind of keep abreast of what's out there and what's possible, because like it or not, as a customer, I am going to everywhere I go, whether or not it's I'm picking up a coffee or I'm using the banking app or getting on a train. I'm every moment of the day I'm it's going into my head as to what's good look like and what is possible. And I don't care if you're my bank or my government agency. If my utility over there can do it, then I sure as hell expect you to be able to do it as well. So there's this element of placing myself, using my own experiences of what's possible. And I think we've got to be compulsive learners. And in my job, we are expected to know exactly what's coming at us from a tech space. I will never know all of the tools and technology that's out there, but I have to do my damnedest at reading, constantly listening to podcasts and soaking up as much information as you can. But then probably the most important piece is, okay, well, what does this mean for our customers? Like, how can I practically apply it? And turning up in forums like this, being part of the Auscontact community, it's a pretty good place to start, because it's a place where we all get to talk about what we're hearing that customers want and need.
Yeah. Mel, any additional thoughts from you around that? I know you touched on it before, and I think that compulsive learner, Stacey, I love that actually. We do have to be prepared to kind of let go of what we thought and be open to what we learn and what we see, and then use that. I think, the last part of, Daniel, you talked about insights and analytic. How do we actually do something with them? Because there's so much. I don't know any industry that has more data or more information available than the good old contact center about everything, down to the micro, down to the 15 minutes. But it's about what you then do with that and how you use it.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything Stacey and Danielle have just said, because being a lifelong learner and also being that customer of every other organisation that you touch is so important to understanding what customers are experiencing everywhere, right? And I had an amazing experience with a bank recently, and which surprised me very much, because I thought it was going to be quite a complex question, and it was fixed within like 45 seconds. And I'm like, wow, how did you do this? Like, this is amazing. And it felt just great. And so I pulled that apart in my head and analyzed it and worked out what was actually done that made me feel like I really had success with that interaction, and then working out how that applies to what we're doing in our industry. And I think while it's learning and getting all these nuggets and bits and pieces, it's about how we're turning that into action. So bringing those pieces back and workshopping it with your staff and saying, what are your experiences? And just, I guess, having the opportunity to brainstorm and think tank how we can move forward based on our own personal experiences is really important. We always go through the analyzing the voice of customer and turning that into different actions, and listening to calls. I'm definitely a big supporter of that and still do it all the time. And I think it was Stacey that said, when you're watching what an agent had to do, we had a very, very senior person come in and do some side by side call listening. And they saw a particular application that one of our agents were using, and it was really, really clunky and kept timing out on them. And it increased the length of the call by a good, 35 seconds. And interestingly, this senior person who had moved up in the business was one of the key drivers of implementing that application many, many years ago. And he's like, oh my gosh, I did not know this was not working. How do I not know this was not working? So encouraging different people from across the organization, regardless of, how we link into their part of the organization, and getting them into the call center and actually experiencing it from an agent perspective, really, really helps keep them abreast of everything that's happening, whether it be our employee experience or our customer experience. Because in the end, if they have the power to make the changes and they're impacted by what they see, that will help us move faster, a lot faster.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the other part of that side by side is the value it places to the individual that you're actually sitting next to as well. So, all of you touched on earlier about, making sure your people feel that you actually are hearing and seeing and connected to what it is they're experiencing. And I know we had the comment there about EX from Janaea before. I think that's another thing that it does. It helps people feel actually heard and listened to. Stacey, I can imagine sitting next to somebody and you say, oh my God, why are you doing that? Let's fix it. That's an incredibly powerful tool around engagement and value, for your people. So I'm with you, Mel. The more opportunity you get to put leaders from every single different part of your organisation into a contact centre, double jacking, actually hearing that experience from a customer, particularly your IT areas. I used to love doing that. It really does give you that opportunity to build a greater understanding of customer, which essentially is, if we can get that right across the organisation, we're laughing. What do you guys see as the biggest opportunity? You kind of touched on, there's huge emerging tech, there's big things happening everywhere. What's the biggest opportunity you see over the coming sort of 12 to 18 months as far as, and maybe we say there's two components here, biggest opportunity when it comes to tech and what we're seeing, and maybe the biggest opportunity as far as shift or change, whether it be people or customer. Stace, we'll start with you.
So in the tech space, I mean, the great thing now is that we have all this tech available in a very accessible way, because a lot of the things that we were talking about a while ago, they were only accessible to a few. And now through cloud contact center platforms, it's, you're not waiting for the next upgrade or deciding whether or not you do it or not. So it's just there. So we can actually create the right conditions for our people. And let's face it, I think we've already agreed they're the most important part to providing that great experience. So, that there's so much out there. Agent assist, auto summarization of notes, automated quality assurance. I mean, how cool is that? Speech analytics, Daniel, you talked about before, but I can think of like 10 different use cases for speech analytics, customer sentiment, and so forth. So there's so many ways to be freeing up our teams now, so they're spending time on the stuff that actually matters, and it's our job to be the brave leaders to kind of navigate and help people make sense of it, and be the compulsive learners we talked about before, because sometimes it's exciting, it's scary, it's overwhelming, and you can really get quite paralyzed with where to begin. And if you're not thinking, we're all leaders in this industry, and if you're not thinking of yourself as a technologist, I would invite you to think again in terms of your relationship and even attitude to tech and how important it is. We're just doing an uplift at the moment across our entire contact center operations, where we're saying, okay, well, you're a contact center leader, but you're also a tech expert, and we are going to help you in these ways. But we're actually asking you to take the time to be curious, to do all the activities we talked about before in terms of listening, reading, and so forth. But we also want you to be the incubator. So for all the different use cases there are for different technologies, so that we can then go out to our customers and say, look, here is how we've practically used ChatGPT. Here is how we've practically used sentiment analysis. So I think it's up to all of us to really play a role in that space.
I definitely agree. Daniel, what do you see as those challenges and opportunities? We always sure there.
Yeah, look, I think, following in Stacey's theme, I think, there's a plethora of technological advancements, and, I'm quite fortunate that I get to travel to the States, annually and get in front of it. Obviously, they're leading it a little bit further in some aspects compared to Australia. We seem to follow and probably follow better and do better once it arrives. But I think one of the the biggest opportunities is really being able to position ourselves. And I think everyone that's here today, really values that, the human side of the customer service interactions, and really being able to continue that theme and customer engagement, and really being able to moderate our use of technology to the detriment of customers. And I think some organisations really spin up technology at the front end a little bit too much, and really start to piss off their customers, and then start on the wrong foot when they start engaging. And so being able to be clever in the way in which you use technology to enhance the customer experience, not just reduce FTE or do anything there. And I think really being able to look at that mix will be really important, because there's always something new coming out, something shiny that we'll have in front of us, and that's unreal. But we've just got to be mindful of how we use that to support that customer experience journey.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a really good call out. Mel, before you jump in, there's a question here or a comment here around, what are some of the most common or significant barriers that you guys are seeing in relation to striving to enhance customer experience? So from a organisation perspective, what are you seeing stopping that? I'm just mindful of time, but it would be great if you've got a quick thought on that. So what are the most common or significant barriers that you see organisations encountering when they are trying to actually enhance that customer experience? Daniel, what you've just said is one of them that I see all the time. People getting a bit carried away with the shiny stuff and actually jumping in and kind of missing that beat around the human interaction and interplay, and actually getting some of the basics, still getting those basics right. I don't know, anyone got any quick thoughts on that one before we wrap up?
I think the biggest mess is forgetting. I mean, the technology is bright and shiny and great. I think sometimes we do confuse the sales pitch to what's actually going to be delivered and the practicality of what it's actually going to do for our staff. I think often the biggest miss is the employee, right? Are we looking after our staff? Because without them, without making it easier for them, without making it easier for them to learn, to work, to stay connected, to feel empowered. If we're not doing that for our staff all the time, and if we're not constantly evolving in that space, then we're not going to evolve in the customer experience space. So I think we often forget that it's actually our people who are our biggest winners. They're the ones that are going to win for us. You'll often, one of the first things, I've worked in different organizations, one of the first things when they start cutting budgets is for the fun stuff, right? All that stuff that keeps people engaged, all those connectedness pieces, they start cutting budgets there because they see it as not necessary. And, often that's the stuff that keeps our teams connected and wanting to come to work and actually feel like they're valued and that the business cares for them. So I just think, that's probably often a miss in many large organizations. We forget how important our people are to us. They are the number one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Stacey, did you have anything you wanted to throw into that mix as well before we?
I think just the last thing I would say is that we often see a divide between customer experience, the contact center operations, and the digital strategy, the marketing strategy, and we've got campaigns going on over here, and all of them are not aligned. And often that means who bears the brunt of that disunity. It's those people actually taking those interactions, and half the time they've got no idea what they're doing. And so, how does the digital strategy line up with the service strategy to kind of serve a combined target state experience, not two separate ones?
Yeah, no, I think we probably all see that a little bit, and that disconnect. How many times have you seen your customer service agents actually taking calls about stuff they have zero visibility of that's happening in other parts of your organisation. So yeah, definitely. Guys, I'm mindful of time. We've just knocked over. Fantastic opportunity to hear from each one of you. We know you're out there doing great things, so any chance we have to pick your brains and share with others some of your insights and experiences is always, you know, really appreciated. So thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Melissa. Thanks everybody for coming along. We'll put the recording up on our website, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Fran. Cheers.
Thank